Top of it, top of it, top of it, people. Hope you guys having a beautiful day. I know I am. And man, thank you guys for helping build the channel, man. We on our way to 100K subs, active subs at that, man. And I appreciate you guys rocking with me through the thick and thin, because they was playing with my channel. They do not like me leaving you this raw content. But in this video, that I'm dropping about Johnathon Hay, who is Rihanna's publicist, he's going to tell you about how Diddy essayed his mouth. How Diddy was touching himself and wanted Johnathon Hay to finish him off while he was watching some porn on his phone, and Johnathon Hay wouldn't. And Diddy finished himself off inside of one of Biggie's small shirts that was getting donated to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and took it like a little rag and threw it on Johnathon Hay's shoulder and said, long live Biggie. And then fast forwarding, Johnathon Hay didn't want to tell CJ, who's Biggie's son. They call him CJ Wallace. He didn't want to tell him that because he didn't want to tell him that until after his father got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So basically, when Johnathon Hay told CJ what Diddy did, CJ was upset and the project was scrapped. So basically, to make a long story short, before I get into this video, because y'all know I like to get straight to it to tell you guys and show y'all this content. And shout out Real Life Street Productions for their content. A few months later, Johnathon Hay was contacted by CJ, and they said, "Hey, the project is on. It's all good." They flew him out to California. Now, CJ and his boyfriend, see, CJ is part of the Rainbow community too, and his boyfriend Willie picked Johnathon Hay up and brought him to a house, an all-white house. Now, this house was owned by Revolt people. These people be having houses and mansions that's not even in your name, that you don't, all kind of stuff goes on. You dig? And he said when he got to that house, Faith Evans was there. And I don't know Faith Evans' other child name, but he named the child. And he said the mood seemed to be off because he had this problem with Diddy. And basically, CJ Wallace set him up, Johnathon Hay up. And he said all of a sudden, here comes two of Diddy's bodyguards out of the blue. And they came up to him and they blindfolded him, guys. And Johnathon Hay said that when he was blindfolded, he could still see out of the bottom of the blindfold. I know some of y'all have been blindfolded in the bedroom, man. Come on, don't act like you don't know. But he said they walked him throughout this mansion to a room. Obviously didn't want him to see what was going on. So he said he came up to this ottoman and he, kind of like took a seat in this ottoman. Now all of a sudden he hears these footsteps and he hears Diddy coming along talking shit like, yeah, you don't deserve to be a part of this Biggie project. You don't deserve to have nothing to do with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You ain't nothing but a snitch, because Johnathon Hay told CJ what Puffy did, that he ejaculated inside of one of his dad's shirts and threw it on him and said, long live Biggie. But what y'all don't know is that Diddy diddled CJ Wallace. You didn't know that part. You didn't know that Diddy gave Johnathon Hay and CJ Wallace a bunch of ketamine and said, here, go make some music. Don't believe me? You'll see the video. But Johnathon Hay goes on to say that Diddy grabbed him by the back of his hair, right? Pulled out his erect eggplant, stuffed it in his mouth, and got to tell him to suck it. Now, until he was done to completion. Now, a lot of y'all wondering why Johnathon Hay didn't bite it. Well, Johnathon Hay says he didn't bite it because he was scared, because Diddy bodyguards were there. They had guns. And he said, you know what? I didn't want to be violated. I was scared. So I just did what I had to do to get through that situation. But 5 years later, I can still taste Diddy's penis in my mouth, man. And I have flashbacks. But let me show you guys, man, who Johnathon Hay is, so y'all know I ain't throwing that clickbait, man, because I got a lot of content for y'all. Let's get it.
Which he was being inducted in November of 2020. So there was all Biggie's clothes. We're going through all these artifacts. I'm blown away. And CJ even says, yo, you should wear one of my dad's original jerseys. So obviously that was an honor. Here we are doing this Biggie project. And now I put on like some of his original garments. And we did some photo shoots and everything else. Well, so when Puffy comes in, he's like going through the clothes and he was like, nah, you should do this one, almost like a stylist. because as you know, Diddy's number one artist of all time is Biggie. The Notorious B.I.G. That's his number one artist. So at that point, he was still very controlling of the Notorious B.I.G., his music, his brand, everything else. And so he was like, "Nah, you should wear this one. You should try that one." Right? He closes the door. The door is closed, and I've got like my T-shirt on. And I'm just like putting on, different Biggie's clothes. He's got some like in this couch next to him that are like piled up because he's also grabbing clothes that they're donating to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Right? So he's got all these clothes on there, and I'm just looking through everything, not all the different clothes, just blown away by, what I'm looking at. An artist that has passed, one of the most historical artists of all time, the greatest bisexual rapper of all time is Biggie Smalls. And so I'm going through all those clothes, and I hear Diddy on his phone, and I didn't know if he was on FaceTime or whatever, but I could hear like, it sounded like, right? And so I'm just like, I'm not trying to like stare over at him and look over at him and all that type shit, right? So I'm just kind of minding my business, but also kind of in tune to what Diddy's doing. Everybody's out in the other, rooms. The music is playing loud, that we did. And it's just Diddy and I in this room with all of Biggie's clothes. Next thing you know, it's like I look over and it's like this dude is looking on his phone and he's like jerking off underneath one of the shirts. So I'm just kind of tripping, like, nah, maybe he's scratching himself. Maybe he's, it can't be what's going on. But sure enough, that's what he's doing, because he's like, as he's getting into it, he's like, yo, bro, finish me off. Just like, nah. So, he finishes off into one of Biggie's garments that he wore.
Finished off, y'all.
Like a nut towel or something.
A nut towel.
And then he does his thing, and he walks over and he throws that on my arm, and I'm just like, holy. And he's like, rest in peace, Biggie, and walks out and laughs. And I'm stunned because what the was that, right? And it was shocking because it's also Biggie's clothes, like his shirt. And that's the part of the lawsuit that went viral at first, and everybody was like, like making fun of it. Like, what do you mean, Diddy masturbated into Biggie's shirt? So, I put the shirt down. I like brush it off. I'm like, okay, we flew in, we're in LA, all these people are out there. And I go out there, I see my girl. And at that point, I'm just like stunned. She's like, what's wrong? I don't tell anything. I'm like, I'm going to go outside and smoke a cigarette. I'm outside smoking a cigarette, just trying to keep my composure because I'm thinking about the project that we've done, the album that was finished. I didn't really know what to do, so I didn't do anything. Diddy left a bunch of ketamine, right? Like the most I've ever seen. Like, I'm talking about bricks. I don't know what it'd be for CJ and Willie and for us to have a good time while we're, making music and house music and everything else. And then he's out. 2 days later, we're back at the house and we go to this rave, this famous DJ named Carl Cox, just me and Sarah. And, we drop ecstasy to rave, psychedelics. We come back to the house and I tell her, I'm like, yo, the weirdest thing happened. And I'm tripping and I get real emotional about it. And then she opens up to me and she says that she used to work with Diddy 10 years ago, because at that time she was 32. When she was 22, she used to, do private events for Diddy in London, in Tulum, and Ibiza, and Brooklyn, and Miami, and New York. She was just like cocktail serving, but obviously, it was probably more knowing, about her past now. So I tell her, she's like, just don't say anything. I'm sorry. Let's just keep the project going. It's not a big deal. Keep it moving. So that's what we did. Is because I had invested already in the project. I'd already done all this stuff. It's about Biggie, not Diddy's whack shit. So I didn't say anything to anybody, and kept the project going, right? So the pandemic, it gets in full swing, and we released the first single, Big Papa, and that goes on like Rolling Stone and Spin Magazine. Me and CJ Wallace, we doing his, dad stuff, and Diddy was like really like, controlling over what the music was going to be, what the vibe was going to be, because that it, being totally objective, that is his artist, right? So, the project gets weird. That happens, and where the project is buzzing. I'm put it to the side, and on the second attack, the real attack that happened is what happened in a year later, which is in the lawsuit, which is they picked me up. So first of all, I finally came clean to CJ and Willie. Well, I came clean to CJ. I was like, bro, this is weird, bro. This is what happened. Like, this guy nutted in your dad's shirt. He threw it on me.
Come on, man.
I just felt like I needed to tell you that.
The nut shirt.
Because right before that, sorry I'm all over the place, but when Biggie was inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in November, it starts off with Puff Daddy, and he's talking about, obviously, inducting Biggie into the Hall of Fame. And then it closes with Biggie's son, CJ Wallace, Biggie's rock and roll thing. So I didn't want to say anything to CJ until after his dad was inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I knew I was going to, so I waited until after that moment. So that's why I waited until early of 2021. And I go back out to LA, and that's when I tell CJ. And I also tell him that Willie's acting hella weird because they wanted to make the project like super gay, right? They wanted to meet Frank White meets Frankie Knuckles, and they wanted to be all inclusive, trans, LGBT, all this stuff that they want to include. CJ and Willie, as I said in one of your interviews, they were like a thing. They were like, boyfriend and boyfriend. But Willie was also doing some extra like weird shit with me, and which I've talked about in some of the other interviews. And so I let CJ know, like, bro, this is what's going on. This is what's happening. Shit is hella weird. And as soon as I told him, chaos broke out, right? And they're like, we're canceling the project. And here I am out in LA, and, so I was a little shocked. Well, then CJ calls me back a few weeks later, and he says, listen, man, I got Willie with me. We want to get together with you. The project is back on. We're going to pick you up, and we're going to film you for Revolt. And we're going to, the three of us are going to talk about the project, and we're going to get it going back in full steam. So I was like, hell yeah. Willie apologized to me over the phone, said he didn't know. He thought I was gay, even though I was with my girlfriend.
All of them are
even though I
gay.
never, whatever. Because, I just weird or whatever. So
All
he's
of them bisexual.
basically I misread the room. So they picked me up, and that's what it says in the lawsuit. And they took me to a Revolt affiliated house. Right? So in the ride over there, it doesn't feel like it's just me in the back seat, CJ and Willie. It didn't feel like, the band's getting back together. We went through a fight. It just felt very, very weird. We pulled up to this White House, and when we're walking in, we start to walk into the house, and immediately when I walked into the house, I knew something was weird. There was Biggie stuff everywhere, like all Biggie's, like posters and like artwork and bad boy shit and everything else. And so these two of Puffy's, and I saw CJ's.
Oh, it's about to get real now, people.
Brother.
It's about to get real now. Stay to the end.
It's CJ's half brother. Faith has two sons, CJ and Josh. I saw him. He didn't even really acknowledge me like he normally does. So I was like, okay, this is weird. These two dudes come over, and they put this COVID, this one of those weird COVID masks where they used to have the not like the regular that people would wear, like the full face that people would wear. They're pulling over and yo, this head's so big, pulling over that's what it felt like. At first I thought it was like a COVID mask, but it was some kind of thing, and it's covering. They get it to my stuff, but I could still see the floor and stuff under my eyes. They push me back into this room, and there's this ottoman. I fall in the back of the chair, and then Diddy's comes in, and I could hear his voice.
Ooh,
I could see his feet, and
about
I'm
to get real now.
Look up, through these little cracks.
It's about to get real now.
What's going on? And he's like, you don't deserve Biggie Smalls. You don't deserve, to be with the Biggie estate. He's just going on and on and on and on and on. Right? And sitting there tripped out because I was in a home invasion, 2 years prior to that. Right. And next thing you know, Diddy is putting his dick in my mouth, and I'm he's grabbing my head, and he's grabbing the back of my head and my face type shit. And I thought for sure that I was gonna die at that point, because he was angry and yelling, and after all that ended, CJ and Willie come in the room, and I could tell that CJ was surprised, maybe. I don't know, but he obviously set it up, and then he was like, bro, just smoke this blunt. And
that's enough of that for right now, guys. And if you ain't realized, Diddy has turned out CJ Wallace. He's turned CJ Wallace out. Because CJ Wallace is bisexual, and with his boyfriend Willie, they brought this man to the house, and you heard Diddy pulled out his you-know-what and put it in Johnathon Hay's mouth until he ejaculated. The man has a case against Diddy as we speak in California for sexual assault. Now, here's the thing with Diddy. Even if he get a pardon from the president, the president can't pardon a state crime. That's in California. So I don't know if y'all noticed this, but Diddy is more men that's claiming they've been assaulted than women. But I mean, this is just your boy Diddy for you, man. I want your thoughts in the comment of what you guys think Johnathon Hay should have did when Diddy put his eggplant in his mouth. What would you have done? What would you have done that was you and you was blindfolded? Because a lot of people, man, giving Johnathon Hay a lot of flack saying, oh, I would have bit it off. I did this. But he said, man, these guys got guns. I was scared. I didn't want to be violated. I got a video for that too, guys. So y'all let me know in the comments what you would do. But man, I'm gonna be dropping this hot tea, man. Why? Because they don't want to. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, because I won't tell, man. Share the video, and let's get 1,000 likes and 1,000 comments on this. I want to know, what would you do if that was you? What would you do if that was you? Would you have even went back out there after you seen Diddy, playing with himself in a nut rag? Would you even go back out there? Would you have bid it? What you have done? But you know the rest, guys. Be blessed. Don't ever get stressed. Make sure you never get finessed. And make sure you're getting plenty of rest. And stay up out of Biggie's clothes like Johnathon Hay should have.